In the context of gold production in Burkina, for a long time it was said that we were not a gold-producing country, but for some time now, gold has become the #1 export product. But we have no control over the gold, whether it's exploration, production, or as you have seen, refining. We asked ourselves a lot of questions, and today we have decided to set up an entire chain. As you are following with APEC, we want to mine the gold ourselves. Today, we are laying the first stone of the refinery. We will no longer have to send our gold abroad for refining. We will refine it on site, and we will know the actual content of the raw gold that comes out. That is very important.
Imagine waking up to the news that two West African nations, countries long underestimated, long overlooked, and long extracted, have just delivered one of the biggest shocks to the global economy in decades. Imagine learning that Ghana and Burkina Faso, nations sitting on some of the richest gold reserves on Earth, suddenly declared, "No more gold for America. No more gold for foreign powers. Africa's gold stays in Africa." This is not a rumor, not a theory, not a political stunt. This is a continental awakening, a bold declaration of sovereignty, and a direct challenge to a global system built on African resources flowing out while poverty, debt, and dependence remain within. Today, in this special investigative feature, Eazicho Africa brings you the full 5,000-word deep dive into how this happened, why it happened, what it means for America, and how Ghana and Burkina Faso may have just ignited a new economic revolution across the entire African continent. Get ready, because this story is big. To understand why the world is shocked, we must first understand Africa's role in the global gold ecosystem. For centuries, gold has shaped empires, destroyed kingdoms, built economies, and served as the backbone of international trade. The British Empire relied on African gold to stabilize its currency. European monarchies used African gold to fund their wars and expand their territories. Even today, global financial institutions still depend on gold reserves to maintain confidence in their currencies. Yet, despite Africa being the largest gold bed on Earth, the continent has remained one of the poorest regions in the world. This is not a coincidence. It is a design. Gold extraction was built on a model where Africa supplied raw resources while Europe and America took the wealth those resources created. Ghana, formerly known as the Gold Coast, was named specifically because of how aggressively Europeans pursued its gold. From the Portuguese to the British, Ghana's gold fueled foreign economies for over 500 years. Meanwhile, local populations saw little benefit. Fast forward to the modern era. Ghana became Africa's #1 gold producer, surpassing South Africa. But the story remained the same. Foreign companies controlled the mines, controlled the refineries, controlled the sales, and controlled the profits. Then there's Burkina Faso, a landlocked country, often described as poor, even though it is one of the fastest-growing gold producers in the world. Western mining companies flocked to Burkina Faso to extract billions of dollars in gold every year, while the country struggled with underdevelopment, insecurity, and unemployment. For decades, Africa's wealth has been extracted and exported. But today, that cycle is breaking. Because Ghana and Burkina Faso have finally said, "No more." They understand something powerful. If Africa keeps its gold, Africa keeps its wealth. If Africa refines its gold, Africa controls its destiny. If Africa stops the old extraction model, the world changes forever. And that, right there, is why America is stunned. This shocking move was not spontaneous. It was not made overnight. It was not done in isolation. Ghana and Burkina Faso spent years preparing quietly. They knew that if they announced too early, powerful foreign interests, mining corporations, lobbying groups, geopolitical partners, would fight back hard. They needed a strategy. They needed leverage. They needed the right moment. Here is how they planned it. Ghana built Africa's largest gold refinery, capable of processing hundreds of tons annually. Burkina Faso partnered with regional investors to build new refining capacity inside their borders. This allowed them to stop exporting raw gold, the stage where Africa loses the most value. Both governments launched detailed audits into foreign mining firms to understand how much they declared, how much they exported, how much they evaded, and how much they owed. To the shock of many officials, the audits revealed billions of dollars in underreported production, fraudulent taxes, and exploitation loopholes. Ghana and Burkina Faso then moved to renegotiate contracts that gave foreign companies too much power. New rules included greater national ownership of mines, higher royalties, stricter export regulations, environmental protection requirements, mandatory refining inside the country. This was revolutionary. Western companies were terrified because gold smuggling is a major problem. Both nations began targeting illegal mining networks, foreign smuggling syndicates, and border corruption. New military units were deployed to protect mining zones. This move shocked foreign powers that were used to exploiting the chaos. In Ghana, leaders emphasized gold for development. In Burkina Faso, the government emphasized resource sovereignty. Two nations, two paths, but the same destination. Finally, they coordinated. And then came the announcement that shook the world. Our gold stays home. Africa will no longer export wealth for others to grow rich. The policies can be summarized in 4 powerful decisions. This is the biggest change. Raw gold is where Africa loses the most value. By banning or restricting raw gold exports, they forced the value chain to remain inside Africa. Both countries invested heavily in refineries. Refined gold is more valuable, more traceable, and more controllable. Instead of exporting to America or Europe, both nations decided to strengthen their currencies, back national reserves, stabilize inflation, support sovereign wealth funds. This is the part that shocked America. Ghana and Burkina Faso will no longer allow foreign entities, including the United States, to enjoy automatic or preferential access to their gold. Deals that once favored the West have been suspended, renegotiated, or canceled. This is what makes the move historic. It is not simply about gold. It is about independence. It is about sovereignty. It is about ending 500 years of exporting African wealth. Let's break down the real motivations behind this decision. African currencies have suffered from inflation and instability for years. Gold provides stability and shields nations from external shocks. Foreign companies made billions. African governments and communities received fragments. This injustice fueled the decision. Africa is awakening. Nations like Mali, Zimbabwe, and Tanzania have also begun pushing back against foreign exploitation. Gold reserves strengthen national economies, reducing reliance on foreign loans. By controlling their gold, Ghana and Burkina Faso gain leverage in global trade, currency negotiations, geopolitical alliances. Refining gold locally creates jobs, value chains, technology transfer, industrial development. For centuries, Africa exported raw materials and imported expensive finished products. That model robbed Africa of trillions. This decision is a rejection of that entire system. Publicly, U.S. officials remained quiet. Behind the scenes, panic. Because America relies heavily on global gold flows, especially from Africa. 4. Reserve diversification, financial stability, industrial requirements, corporate supply chains. When Ghana and Burkina Faso shut the doors, Washington realized Africa is no longer under economic control. Analysts warned the White House that global gold markets could tighten, prices could rise, mining companies could lose billions. America may face new supply challenges. This is why the U.S. response has been cautious and diplomatic. They understand that the world is changing. This move is bigger than 2 countries. It is a spark. If other African nations follow, and many are considering it, the global economy will shift dramatically. Africa will gain bargaining power. Western companies will lose monopoly control. Global gold prices will be influenced by African decisions. China and India will deepen partnerships with Africa. The U.S. will need new strategies. This is not just a gold revolution. This is a geopolitical shift. Experts believe that the following nations may soon replicate Ghana and Burkina Faso, Mali, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Zambia, DR Congo, Niger. If they join the movement, Africa will control 60% of the world's gold, 80% of the world's cobalt, 40% of the world's manganese, 70% of global cocoa, and massive reserves of oil, lithium, and uranium. This will shift global power permanently. Africa will negotiate from a position of strength. For the first time in modern history, African nations are keeping their resources, controlling their industries, refusing exploitation, building real independence. This is a monumental shift. It is not just economic. It is psychological. It is cultural. It is generational. A new Africa is emerging. Ghana and Burkina Faso did not simply make a financial decision. They made history. They stood up against a centuries-old system built on extraction and dependency. They shocked America. They stunned Europe. They inspired Africa. This story proves one thing. Africa's destiny is changing. The world must now adapt to a continent that demands respect, fairness, and sovereignty. And right here on Eazicho Africa, we will continue bringing you the truth, the transformation, and the rise of a new African power. If Africa keeps its resources, Africa keeps its future. And that future starts now.